All right, let's do a few more examples using our order of operations and our idea of parentheses and exponents. If you look at example number 5, it asks us to evaluate for x equals 5. The first one, they want negative x squared. So wherever we see an x, we want to plug in a 5. So really, I have a new problem that says negative 5 squared. You notice that the negative 5 is in the parentheses, which really means that I have negative 5 times another negative 5. Well, two negatives make me a positive, and I get positive 25. Now look at B though. B says that we want a negative, or an opposite, of x squared. Well, if x is 5, then what this is really saying is what is 5 squared? 5 times 5 is 25. And then what's the opposite of 25? Well, it's negative 25. So when the negative is inside the parentheses, my answer turns out to be positive. When my negative is not inside the parentheses, I have to take the opposite of 5 squared, which is negative 25. So it turns out to be negative. So parentheses make a big difference, so be careful with that. Let's do example number 6 also in this video. In example number 6, it asks us to evaluate for a equals 4. So wherever I see an a, I'm going to plug in a 4 instead. So I'm going to very carefully and make sure I'm really organized, rewrite my problem, but instead of an a, I'm going to substitute in a 4. So I have negative 15 divided by 3. In parentheses, I have a 6 minus 4, and then I have cubed. So I see a whole bunch of different operations here. So I'm going to follow the order of operations and do parentheses first. So I see inside my parentheses, I have a 6 minus 4. Well, 6 plus a negative 4 is really a 2, right? So then I have a problem that looks like this. I have a negative 15 divided by 3 next to a parentheses of 2 cubed. Inside those parentheses is just a 2, and I can't do anything more with that 2. It's already as simplified as possible. So now I want to go to the next step in the order of operations, which is exponents. I do see this 2 is cubed, which really means I have 2 times 2 times 2, 2 multiplied 3 times. That gives me a negative 15 divided by 3, with a parentheses if you want to, and an 8. Or what those parentheses are representing now is really just multiplication. So you can write it with the parentheses if you'd like to, or you can say that you have negative 15 divided by 3 times 8. Now I see division and multiplication, but remember, we do it from left to right. So I'm going to take the negative 15 and divide it by 3 first. Negative divided by a positive is negative 5, and then I have negative 5 times 8, which is negative 40, making sure that I'm very careful and organized with each of my steps. Let's look at another one. For B, it says negative 2 plus 100 divided by 2 times y, for y equals 10. So I'm going to rewrite my problem, and instead of using a y, I'm going to plug in a 10 there. And you notice the 2y really means I have 2 times y. So I can write it with parentheses, or I can write it with a multiplication sign. Either way would mean the same thing. If you write it with parentheses, though, know that there's nothing you can really do inside those parentheses, so the parentheses are really just representing a multiplication anyway. So I have negative 2 plus 100 divided by 2 times 10. I don't see any other parenthesis, I don't see any exponents, but I do see some multiplication and division. I'm going to do it from left to right, so I see division first, not the multiplication always. Make sure you do it from left to right, or you're going to get a different answer, a wrong answer. When I divide 100 divided by 2, I end up getting 50. I'm going to bring everything down carefully. I still have the negative 2 plus 50 times the 10 that's in the back. I now notice that I have multiplication still, so 50 times 10 is 500. And now I have negative 2 plus 500. Those signs are opposite, so I can subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So I really have a positive 498. The key to many of these order of operations problems is being very careful to stay organized and show it step by step by step so that you're not trying to do too much at once. So please be careful with that. Please make sure that you practice that as you're doing your homework and your exams so you don't try to get overwhelmed and you don't make any silly mistakes because you're not organized.